There.
Hi everybody, I am going to do a short interview to Dr. Paz and a few questions of shrimp. And the first question is, what has been the disease in the shrimp that has caused the most damage?
Okay, the most damage has been white spot, which is a virus, and that started back in the early 2000s. But now, right now, the most important one is the early mortality syndrome, which caused a lot of problems in Asia. But in Latin America, it has caused a little bit of problems, but not as much as in Asia.
Okay, the second one is, what is the density of stocking with which I can differentiate if it is intensive or semi-intensive or extensive systems?
Okay, first of all, extensive systems are no longer used for commercial production, so you can count that one out. But then when you talk about semi-intensive, which is what we do here in Latin America, you're talking about, as a maximum, you're talking about 25, 30 shrimp per square meter. But normally what they use is from 10 to 20. It varies on the location. And then when you're talking about intensive and you go to Asia, some people use 200 to 20. It varies on the location. And then when you're talking about intensive and you go to Asia, some people use 200 animals per square meter. I've heard of people using 500 animals per square meter, but it all depends on the system that they use.
The third is, with your experience, which one do you think is better, tilapia production or shrimp production, and why do you think that?
They're all better. Aquaculture is all good. No, but depends on where you are. If you are in a place where you can access salt water, I would recommend shrimp production. If you're not, I recommend tilapia production. But in terms of return for your money in a quick way, shrimp. But the problem is that shrimp has more risk than tilapia. So if you don't like risk too much, go and do tilapia. If you have fresh water.
The fourth question is, what is the limit of mortality to consider a good tilapia production, and what is the percentage of mortality in Zamorano?
Okay, for tilapia, anything from 85% up is considered good. In Zamorano, we have pretty good survival rates. And when we're talking about Roa, we have about 92%. When we're talking about
consider a good tilapia production, and what is the percentage of mortality in Zamorano?
Okay, for tilapia, anything from 85% up is considered good. In Zamorano, we have pretty good survival rates. And when we're talking about Roa, we have about 92%. When we're talking about fingerling production, when they're really small, we have about 87, 90%.
Okay. The third question is, has Zamorano ever wanted to produce shrimp? If so, why didn't it happen?
First of all, because we don't have a source of salt water, we can't do shrimp production, the traditional shrimp. We do run trials here in Zamorano for shrimp production, but we have to use salt. And then what we do is that we start lowering the salinity because we don't want to be adding too much salt to the system. But that's the main reason that we don't have salt water.
The sixth question is, what should we check daily in the tilapia ponds?
Okay, daily you have to check temperature and oxygen. That's the main two things you have to check. Weekly you can check pH, and monthly you can check alkalinity.
The last question is, what physical and chemical parameters?
A source of salt water. We can't do shrimp production, the traditional shrimp. We do run trials here in Zamorano for shrimp production, but we have to use salt. And then what we do is that we start lowering the salinity because we don't want to be adding too much salt to the system. But that's the main reason that we don't have salt water.
The sixth question is, what should be checked daily in the tilapia pumps?
Okay, daily you have to check temperature and oxygen. That's the main two things you have to check. Weekly you can check pH, and monthly you can check alkalinity.
The last question is, what physical and chemical parameters should be taken into account to know the quality of water in the pump or tank?
Okay, if you have a source of water and you want to make sure if it's good for aquaculture, the first thing you have to check is pH. Then you have to check alkalinity. If you're in fresh water, you also have to check for hardness. If you're in saltwater, hardness is not that important because it's saltwater. So it already has the ions. And in both, you have to check for heavy metals because they are toxic to the animal.
Okay, this is all. Thank you, Dr. Paz.
No problem.